Story 1. I'm a 30-year-old product designer from London. Last spring, I booked a small Airbnb in Lisbon's Alfama district, the oldest neighborhood in the city. Cobblestone streets twisted uphill like veins, and buildings leaned together as if whispering. The listing photos showed a sleek studio, exposed brick, soft lighting, a balcony overlooking a narrow alley where you could hear the faint echo of fado music at night. It was called Smart Studio Alfama, modern comfort and historic charm. The host, Rui, messaged constantly before check-in. Quick replies, polite tone, 5-star reviews. But one line stood out in his last message. Please read the digital house manual carefully, especially page 7. It explains something about the bathroom door that sounded strange, but I brushed it off. When I arrived, Rui was already waiting on the steps. Mid-30s, dark hair, tidy beard, a navy windbreaker with some startup logo. He smiled warmly and handed me a paper bag. Welcome kit, he said. Pastéis de nata, bottled water, Metro card. And this, he held up a small black fob. Door sensor key, tap it to unlock. Very safe. This building is old. It likes routine. Inside, the studio was perfect. Modern lights, a wood stove, smooth white walls. Just remember, Rui said before leaving. At night, keep the bathroom slider closed. Page 7 explains why I laughed. The bathroom door? Yes, it confuses the sensors if left open, makes the ventilation act strange. He smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. That night I cooked pasta, poured some wine, and unpacked. Around 11, I turned the lights low. It was quiet, too quiet. Even the city noise seemed to die at the thick stone walls. At 2:13 a.m., I woke to a low hum. The bathroom fan had switched on by itself. Soft at first, then deeper. A mechanical sigh that filled the tiny room. I lay there, trying to convince myself it was automated. Motion sensor, timer, something normal. But then I heard a faint click, like the glass bathroom door settling back into place. Half asleep, I patted over and shut it tight. It felt like I was pushing against a pocket of cold air. The hum stopped instantly. Next morning, there was an email from Rui. Hi, sensor log shows bathroom door open at 2:08 a.m. Please keep it closed after 2200, thank you. I frowned. The time was wrong. And how did he know? That afternoon, I finally opened the digital manual he kept talking about. Page 7. Doors. Keep bathroom slider fully closed after 2200 hours. Do not leave balcony door open after sunset. If ventilation starts by itself at night, do not open the bathroom door until it stops. If the glass fogs, do not wipe it. It will clear on its own. The last line made me uneasy. Who writes that? The second night, same thing. At 2:15, the hum began again, slow and rhythmic. I stared toward the bathroom, and my breath caught. The glass door was glowing faintly from within, soft white fog creeping up its surface. Then an oval patch appeared in the mist, right at head height. The shape of a breath. I froze. No movement, just that oval mark, as if someone stood inches away from the other side. When the hum stopped, the fog slowly vanished. The glass cleared. Everything normal again. I didn't sleep after that. The next morning, Rui messaged again. All good? Don't worry if the fan turns on, it's just humidity correction. I wanted to ask why the humidity correction looked exactly like someone breathing against glass, but I didn't. That night, I wedged a towel in the doorframe to test it. If the slider moved, I'd know. At 2:16, the hum started. And then the towel slid free, slow and deliberate, like something pulling it out from the other side. I sat upright, heart pounding, watching as 2 fog patches formed on the glass this time. One high, one low, the size of a child. When the hum faded, both shapes lingered, longer than they should have. Rui showed up unannounced the next morning. He had coffee pods, fresh towels, and a printed sheet. "Manual, page 7, he said, placing it on the counter. "Guests like paper copy." The text was the same, except for 2 new lines at the bottom. "If you notice marks on the bathroom glass after midnight, do not respond. If you must respond, please use the guest book by the door, not the mirror." I laughed nervously. "Is this some kind of joke?" Rui smiled too long. "Old buildings keep memories. The ventilation connects to other apartments. It can create echoes." "Echoes of what?" I asked. He didn't answer. That night, I left the guest book open beside the door. I wanted proof. At 2:14, the hum began again. The glass fogged almost instantly. 3 ovals this time, clustered close together like faces pressed to the other side. I picked up the pencil and wrote, "Please stop." The pencil shivered in my hand. Then it moved. Tiny, jerking strokes like a muscle twitch. I slid the book under the door. A soft scraping sound followed. The book moved forward an inch, then back. When I pulled it out, there was a shaky word scrawled into the page. "Adjude. Help." The hum deepened, louder now. The fog pulsed, as if something exhaled hard against the glass. I pushed the book under again, whispering, "Who are you?" Seconds passed. Then faintly, the pencil scratched again. "Ele volta." He returns. I didn't wait. I grabbed my bag and sat outside on the steps until dawn. Rui refunded the remaining nights immediately. He didn't ask why. Back home in London, I deleted the photos I'd taken there, but one wouldn't erase. The bathroom reflection. When I looked closely, I could see faint marks in the glass, 3 pale ovals. Now some nights around 2:15, my apartment feels colder for no reason. The bathroom mirror fogs even when the water's cold. And sometimes, when I turn to leave, there's a shape in the mist that fades a heartbeat too late. If you ever rent a place where the host warns you about a door you shouldn't open, listen, because some doors don't hide secrets. They hide things waiting to breathe again. Story 2. A story about a host who won't stop checking in. I'm a 33-year-old teacher from Manchester. Last summer, I booked a week-long stay at an Airbnb in the outskirts of Bath, England. I needed a break. Quiet countryside, books, and no students shouting my name every 5 seconds. The listing was called the Coach House Retreat, a renovated carriage home beside an older Victorian house. It had stone walls, ivy climbing up one side, and wide fields rolling out behind it. Perfect. The reviews all said the same thing. Lovely host, very attentive. The host's name was Mr. Lyle, 60-something retired architect. His profile picture showed him smiling under a straw hat, standing in front of the property. When I arrived, he was waiting in the driveway, exactly like in the photo. Friendly, polite, but with the kind of energy that doesn't quite match his age. Fast eyes, firm handshake, voice too measured. "Welcome to the Coach House," he said, taking my bag before I could object. "It's just you this week, yes?" "Just me," I said. He smiled. "Good. People don't often come alone anymore. They should. It's quiet here, peaceful." He walked me through the place. Kitchen, small sitting room, loft bedroom above with exposed beams. It was lovely, honestly. Cozy and clean. He stopped by the door and held up the key. "Only one," he said. "But I live next door if you need anything. There's an emergency copy, of course, for safety." That detail barely registered at the time. The first 2 days were perfect. I cooked, went on walks, watched old movies. The silence was the kind you can feel pressing against your ears. On the 3rd night, around 10:30, there was a knock on the door. 3 soft taps. When I opened it, Mr. Lyle stood there holding a flashlight. "Sorry to bother," he said. "Just checking the boiler pressure. It sometimes dips at night." He stepped inside without really waiting for permission. I followed, unsure. The boiler was in the little cupboard off the kitchen. He tapped the gauge, nodded, then smiled. "All good. Sleep well," and left. It felt harmless. Odd, but harmless. The next morning, I found the door unlocked. I always lock up, always. It's automatic. I brushed it off, figuring maybe I'd forgotten. That evening, around the same time, 10:30, another knock. I ignored it. I wasn't in the mood for another boiler check. A few minutes later, I heard the handle turn. Softly, slowly, like someone testing it. Then nothing. I sat frozen on the couch, heart pounding. Finally, I crept to the window and peeked out. The yard light was off, but I could see a shadow retreating toward the main house. Mr. Lyle's shape unmistakable in the porch light. I locked the door again, this time double-checking the bolt. The next day, I decided to be direct. When I saw him in the garden, I said casually, "Hey, about last night. Did you need something?" He looked up from trimming his hedges and smiled faintly. "Last night?" "No, I turned in early." He held my gaze just long enough to make me doubt myself. Then, still smiling. "Old houses settle strangely at night. You'll get used to it." That evening, I slid a chair under the door handle before bed. It was silly, I know, but it made me feel safer. Around midnight, I woke to the faintest scrape. Wood on wood. The chair moved, just an inch. Then again, slower. Someone was trying the door, carefully, deliberately, testing how much pressure it would take. The sound stopped, followed by soft, measured breathing from the other side. I held my breath. Then, as suddenly as it started, silence. I stayed awake until dawn. When I stepped outside that morning, the dew glittered across the grass, and for a moment I wondered if I'd imagined everything, until I noticed the doormat, slightly crooked, and a single muddy print half smudged on the stone. Size 10, maybe? Boot tread. Mr. Lyle's. I didn't confront him. Instead, I called Airbnb's helpline. They said they'd open a case, but since he was technically on site and I was still in the property, they couldn't prove misconduct. The rep suggested I try to find another place if I felt unsafe. Easier said than done. Bath was packed with tourists, and every hotel within 5 miles was booked. So I decided to stick it out. 2 more nights. Big mistake. That evening, I blocked the front door again. Chair, latch, bolt. Then I did something else. I placed a small travel mirror on the floor angled toward the hallway. From my bed upstairs, I could see the reflection of the door through the banister. If it opened, I'd know. At 12:17 a.m., the light changed in the reflection. Faint, like a phone screen turning on. Then the door handle moved. Slowly, deliberately. The bolt clicked open with a metallic sigh. The door eased inward an inch, then stopped. In the mirror, I saw the edge of a flashlight beam sweep across the floor. Then, a voice, almost a whisper. "You left your key in the lock again." It was Mr. Lyle's voice. I sat perfectly still, every nerve screaming. I had the key in my bag upstairs. It wasn't in the lock. He stood there for a moment, just inside the doorway. Then the flashlight clicked off. The door closed softly. I didn't sleep again. At sunrise, I went straight to my car. But when I tried to start it, the battery was dead. I'd driven it the day before. It had been fine. I messaged Mr. Lyle through the app. "Car won't start. Do you know any garages nearby?" Within minutes, he appeared, cheerful as ever. "Let's have a look." He opened the bonnet, poked around, then said, "Strange. Nothing wrong with the battery." Must have drained overnight. Happens sometimes if doors aren't shut tight. He smiled wider. You should be more careful locking up. That's when I noticed it. On his key ring, hanging beside his car key, a duplicate key identical to mine. Same brass tag, same ribbon. I felt my stomach drop. I pretended not to notice. I thanked him, said I'd take the train into town, and left. But I didn't go to the station. Instead, I called a friend in Bristol, told her everything, and asked her to come pick me up. She said she'd leave immediately. While waiting, I sat in the living room with the lights on, every door locked. The air in that house felt different now. Heavy, watching. At 9:42 a.m., there was another knock. I froze, then his voice, through the wood. Just checking if your car's sorted? Don't want you stranded? I didn't reply. A pause, then quieter. You can open up. I know you're in there. I texted my friend my exact location and told her to call the police if I didn't answer in 10 minutes. 5 minutes later, the sound of a key turning in the lock. The bolt caught, but the handle moved. Hard. He was trying to open it. Door's jammed, he muttered through the crack. Old houses, you know. I shouted, leave me alone. Silence. Then footsteps retreating toward his house. My friend arrived 30 minutes later. We loaded my bags into her car as quickly as possible. As we pulled away, I glanced back. Mr. Lyle was standing in the upstairs window of his house, curtain drawn halfway. He didn't wave. Later, when I left a complaint through Airbnb, they asked for proof. I didn't have much, just my messages and the sound of a handle turning from a video I'd recorded on my phone. Weeks later, the listing was gone. But sometimes I check the app out of morbid curiosity. The coach house shows up again every few months under a new host name, same photos, slightly different description. Historic countryside stay. Attentive owner lives nearby. Every time I see it, my stomach knots. It's been nearly a year now. I've stayed in Airbnbs since, but I never sleep through the night. I still double-check every lock before bed. And I never ever rent from superhosts who advertise being attentive. Last month, I received an envelope in my postbox. No return address. Inside was a single brass key tied with a thin red ribbon. Same as before. I don't know how it got there. I moved flats 2 months ago. The tag was stamped. Coach house, copy. I threw it away that night, but the sound of that key hitting the bottom of the bin felt too loud. Now, some nights, I wake up certain I've heard the soft, polite tap of someone testing my front door. 3 knocks, always the same rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. And I swear, sometimes when I check the peephole, I can see the faint reflection of a flashlight beam moving away and the outline of a man smiling wearing a straw hat. Story 3. I'm a 29-year-old QA engineer from Glasgow. Last autumn, I booked an Airbnb in Amsterdam's Jordan, a tiny top-floor studio with a canal view, pale floors, and whitewashed beams. The host, Anki, had 300 5-star reviews and a friendly profile photo. Her pre-arrival message was detailed. Wi-Fi, recycling, stairs, and one line I barely noticed. Please do not move the bedroom wardrobe. It's very old and heavy. When I arrived, rain slicked the street, bikes hissed past, and the building leaned like it was listening. The studio matched the photos. Small, perfect, and quiet. At the foot of the bed stood a massive wardrobe. Lion paw feet, carved crown, a linen throw over one handle. The air smelled faintly of lavender and cedar. The printed house manual repeated the rule in bold. Do not move the bedroom wardrobe under any circumstances. It is fixed for safety. Someone had added a blue ink smiley face. That night, I left the window cracked and fell asleep to canal water tapping stone. At 3:07 a.m., I woke. No sound, only pressure, as if the room had exhaled. Then a tick, soft wood shifting, a click from the wardrobe latch. I held my breath, heard nothing more, and went back to sleep. Morning sunlight made the room innocent again. But when I looked closely, the floor in front of the wardrobe showed faint gouges, half moons where heavy feet had been inched forward. Fresh, dust clean. That night, it happened again. Tick. Then a long, low sigh, like air sliding through a crack. I switched on my phone torch. The carved leaves threw thin shadows. The left door looked as if it had shifted inward the width of a fingernail. I told myself it was wood settling, humidity, whatever. The next morning I messaged Anka, pretending casual curiosity. Wardrobe's gorgeous. Should I avoid hanging damp clothes? Don't want to warp it. She replied instantly. Yes, please. It's fixed to protect the wall. Please don't move it. Enjoy your stay, fixed. Yet I could find no brackets or screws. The crown was flush to the plaster, no gap at all. That evening, the city felt heavy. I noticed how quiet the studio truly was, like the walls were holding their breath. The left foot of the wardrobe sat just beyond its dust ring. I snapped a photo and set a coin at the base to see if it moved. At 3:07, the room chilled. A dull thud, not loud, just final. My phone's screen showed the coin 3 inches from where I'd left it. When I crouched, a cold draft feathered along the baseboard behind the wardrobe. I pressed my palm to the wall. The air was moving, steady, unnatural. I knelt, ear to plaster. Very far away came a sound like fabric shifting. The next day, I pulled the bed forward and tried the wardrobe handles. The right side held fast. The left gave a fraction of an inch. Behind it, the wall looked too smooth, paint thick like frosting. I slipped my phone underneath and took a photo. When I looked, one frame showed a metal screw head in the wall beside a perfect vertical seam, too straight to be a crack. I knew then the wardrobe wasn't hiding plaster. It was hiding a door. Curiosity won. Using my multi-tool, I chipped the screw loose. The seam trembled. I pried gently, and the panel breathed cold. Inside was a shallow cavity, coils of wire, a battery pack, a tripod, and a tin mince box. Inside the tin lay a micro SD card, a SIM, and a folded note with a Wi-Fi name that wasn't Anka's. At the back of the cavity, a pinhole tunneled through the wall, perfectly aligned to the wardrobe's carved crown, straight toward the bed. I took photos, emailed them to myself, and messaged Anki. Hi. Dropped something behind the wardrobe, found a loose panel. Should I fix it? Her reply arrived within seconds. Please do not touch the wardrobe or wall. I'll come by. My heart lurched. Tomorrow's fine, I typed. I'm nearby, she wrote. 5 minutes. I closed the panel, slid the screw halfway in, pushed the bed back, pocketed the SD card and SIM, and sat on the stairs pretending to tie my shoes. Anki climbed past me, cheerful, key already in hand. Inside, I heard the unmistakable scrape of wood. A pause, then the quick shuffle of cables. When she emerged, her smile was strained but polite. All good. Just checking the wardrobe is steady, I smiled back like I believed her. That night, I booked a hotel. Before leaving, I placed a hair across the wardrobe foot and propped my phone to record. I left for 20 minutes. When I returned, the hair was gone. The wardrobe looked the same. My phone video showed 26 minutes of stillness, then a shadow crossing the lower frame, gloved hand, shoulder, flashlight beam, then the faint beep of a device connecting to a network. I packed immediately. On the landing, an old neighbor opened his door a crack. Leaving? He asked. Yes. He nodded once. Good. The wardrobe is not for guests. Whose is it? He hesitated. Someone who does not live here. When Anka replies fast, he's in the city. I spent the rest of the week in a hotel. Airbnb support thanked me for the report and promised to investigate. The listing disappeared. then reappeared months later under a different name. Same photos, same wardrobe softened with extra plants. I never got my deposit back. A month later, a padded envelope arrived at my office. No return address. Inside, a lavender sachet identical to the one inside the wardrobe, the scent faint and cold. A printed note: "Please do not move the bedroom wardrobe. It is quite old and very heavy. Thank you." Sometimes around 3:07 a.m., when my flat's heating ticks, I lie awake waiting for the sound of wood shifting behind plaster. If you ever rent a place where the host leaves a rule that sounds too polite to matter, don't move the wardrobe, don't ask why, just leave. Because some furniture doesn't hide dust. It hides whoever was told to stay behind it.